the RNG machine was not on my side this time, that's for sure. Because this week is covering gauntlets. With a lot of the older weapons, I'm not going to entirely know what they were like back then, because I didn't play back in 2016 and 2017, whenever they were released. If you know me as a friend, or just have seen me on the subreddit from time to time, you'll know that Gauntlets is my absolute least favorite weapon to fight in the game, for a whole number of reasons. Its attacks I think are really good. Some of them are incredibly OP in my opinion, so let's jump into them. Neutralite is your simple punching forward move. It can combo pretty well into other Gauntlet moves, but it's not the combo starter people use. A great attack still. Sidelight. This one fucking move. I honestly think that Sidelight is the strongest light attack in the game. It's super quick and incredibly easy to hit opponents with, considering the fact that its hitting area is pretty big as well. Even trying to punish it with, let's say, Spirit Downlight is incredibly hard because of how quickly you can recover from the move. You'd think that by all the time I've been fighting Gauntlets and having some of them like Val in my 30s and Rayman in my 45s, yes, he's actually that high in console, that I would have found some way to counter it. Nope. I've never heard a reliable counter to the move besides just wait and punish, but doing that is incredibly hard due to how quick the move is. Even reading with it is easier than ever. Side dodging, you can just do a GC side light. Neutral dodge, you get hit by recovery or nair. Down dodge could be another side light or just dare, for example. The list goes on. I know that sounds like BS, considering it's reads, just like any other weapon can do. But, I don't know, it's something about side light that feels so much stronger compared to other moves in the game. I think it's in need of massive nerfs. Downlight is the bread and butter of gauntlets. This is what you'll use for your more skillful combos. Downlight Nair is a famous one, and while I don't know how to do it myself, I can do a gravity cancel, which for me is good enough honestly. Downlight Neutralite and Downlight Sidelight's true for absolutely no reason. I honestly think that should be removed. And honestly, there's a whole ton of chains you can throw your enemy into using Downlight. Its aerial moves is going to be much more ranting, so let's hop into them. Nair, an attack that's meant to send upwards, sends downwards. I cannot stress how frustrating this move is to fight. The follow-ups to Nair are so incredibly easy to do that any gold player could do it easily. I'll come back to Nair when we finish the aerial, since there's much more to cover. Side air also sends downwards, which honestly I still think is BS, but it's honestly whatever. It's not as strong as Nair or Sideline in my opinion, although I just wish it sent more horizontally over vertically. Dare can also be used in replacement of Nair, but Nair is much better for how much freedom you get when doing a combo with it. Dare doesn't have as much freedom. Now I'll be comparing Nair and Dare. Nair, the attack that's meant to send upwards but sends downwards, is used more than Dare, the attack that is meant to send downwards in general. I think that's complete BS, and honestly I would love to see a rework in Nair. A rework that changed Nair to make it throw upwards instead. Not all Nairs have to have combo potential. Blaster's Nair, Cannon Nair, and Hammer Nair are all good examples. My idea is that with Nair, you would grab your opponent, swing him around a little bit, and quickly throw him upwards. This could still be comboed with recovery, for example. And as for Dare, turn Nair into Dare. That way Gauntlet still keeps its bread and butter combos while fixing Nair's problem and making Dare a much more viable move compared to the current version. And now you may ask me, why not rework Hammer Recovery in Dare since those also send in obscure directions? Yes, I'm completely fine with that as long as it fixes Gauntlet's issue. Although I think in Hammer it isn't a big issue. Maybe Recovery, but that's for another time. Gauntlet's Recovery. Honestly, it's a perfectly fine move. There isn't anything I would change about it. Some past nerfs to it I think balanced it pretty well. Ground Pound. The fact that an incredibly powerful move like Ground Pound, with that force, is steerable, is absolute bullshit. With Nair, it gives the enemy too much freedom off stage, and these two attacks are what makes Gauntlets the best offstage weapon in the game. I think a simple fix to Gauntlet's Ground Pound would simply be to just remove the steering entirely. It'd still be a great move, as it'd be very similar to Blaster's Ground Pound, but just slightly different. If not that, just remove the backward steering. You can only do it by jumping backwards off a stage or a wall, but I think it's absolute BS. Now, what are the reasons people like Gauntlets? Well, I'll state one pretty obvious one: it's an incredibly meta weapon, and has been for years. I mean, come on, Mordex exists. Of course everyone's gonna like Gauntlets, along with Scythe, if they made the most played legend in the game. And that's purely based off liking a weapon based off a legend, though. What are some better reasons? Well, definitely because of its downlight combos. It's incredibly rewarding to pull these off in a game. Downlight Nair is seen as one of the most skillful combos in the game, and I admit, it's hard to do. Really hard. But, jeez dude, people talk about how they love Gauntlets for that reason, but proceed to only use Sidelight when they actually play it. It's like fighting a Scythe main who likes playing the weapon for the dodge reads and such, but then proceeds to spam Dare. It's easy setups for reads. Like, why use the other attacks on the weapon if you can win much more easily with just the one move? That's less of an issue on Scythe, of course, and more of an issue on Gauntlets. I fight Diamond players who spam Sidelight on Gauntlets, and I've even seen pro players do it in tournaments. But, you know, whatever floats people's boats. Props to the people who do play Gauntlets with Downlight over Sidelight, though. The last reason on our list is because of its incredibly rewarding offstage gameplay. It's a very low risk to take because all of Gauntlet's aerial moves send downwards, and like stated earlier, Nair sets up for incredibly easy combos. Even I pull this stuff off too and feel dirty doing it. Now this is a much shorter list, but why are the reasons people dislike Gauntlets? I'm going to try to aim for stuff that a majority dislikes, and not just me of course. One good reason, it could be for the same reason people like it, is that its offstage is incredibly good, especially groundbound. This move I see people complain about more than any on Gauntlets. The other reason could be that it's just meta. I don't see people complain about it much anymore since people think Axe Bow and Scythe are the new meta, but I don't know, you tell me. Now I'm not a teacher or anything, but I'm going to, unfortunately, give some helpful tips for Gauntlets. Tip number 1, learn downlane Nair. Hell, even GC downlane Nair will work. It may take hours of training to do it correctly, but I think learning this combo will lead to much more skillful combos with Gauntlets, compared to Satellite anyways. Tip number 2, don't underestimate some of its moves. Some of Gauntlet's moves today are still incredibly good. Downlight comboing into just about everything is one. Its offstage gameplay entirely is amazing, especially steerable ground pound. And of course, sidely is not to be underestimated at all. Tip number 3, dodges. For Gauntlets, I noticed a lot of people tend to dodge upwards against it, and this might just be me, but there are some really good dodge reads you can do against it. Since Nair dare send downwards, both moves can be used to catch any up dodges. Of course, side dodging would just be sidelight, it isn't too hard to think about, but I'd say Dare and Nair are the most valuable when it comes to doing dodge reads. Please correct me if I'm wrong with this, or if there's a better move to use for reads, as I'm not entirely sure about it. I don't main Gauntlets, you know. Tier list wise, out of S, A, and B, Gauntlets is without a doubt double S tier. Even after its nerfs, I think it's still the best weapon in the game, and I honestly don't think we're going to get any of the nerfs I suggested. It'll likely stay the way it is forever, and I don't think it'll ever be as bad as B tier. Maybe A tier, but that'd be if they actually balanced it. My theory on it is that BMG won't balance the weapon because of bias. That sounds stupid, yes, but hear me out. Take a look at it. There are 10 Gauntlet Legends in the game. Gauntlets has more combinations than some older weapons in the game like Bow and Lance, which I think is a complete BS. BMG makes so many Gauntlet Legends, skins, crossovers, etc. because it still appeals to the majority of players. Even 3 out of 4 of the progression skins were Gauntlet Legends. I can't even complain anymore. It's just rambling at this point. Of course, if you want to win or use an S tier weapon, go play Gauntlets. Otherwise, I would heavily go against it, because my lawyer advised me not to tell anyone to play the weapon. But I still do it anyways. And that wraps up for Gauntlets, though. I hope it wasn't all pointless rambling, and I hope some of it got through to people. Either way, Legend Analysis videos continue next week, so give me your suggestions. Thanks, and keep on brawling.